rain was still falling gently when Ella sat alone on the cold hospital bed. Her tiny hands clutched the edge of the thin blanket, and her eyes were red from crying. She had not eaten all day. The nurses had come and gone, whispering things she didn't understand. But none of them stayed long enough to say anything comforting. The room felt big, too big, and far too quiet without her mom and dad. Just then, the door opened slowly. It was Dr. Amos, the kind man who had first brought her here after the accident. He looked tired too, his face sad, but his voice was gentle. "Ella," he said softly, kneeling beside her bed. "How are you feeling?" Ella didn't answer. She just stared at the wall, her lips trembling. Her world had ended, and nothing made sense anymore. Dr. Amos sighed and sat on the little chair beside her. "I know you're hurting. And I wish there was anything I could do to take the pain away. But I want you to know, you're not alone." Ella blinked, still silent. After a long pause, Dr. Amos reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small photo. It was a picture of him, a woman, and a boy who looked about Ella's age. They were all smiling. "This is my family," he said, showing her the photo. "My wife's name is Molly. And that's our son, Jimmy. We have a quiet house, not too far from here. I was thinking, maybe you could come stay with us. Just for a while. Until we figure out what's next." Ella finally turned her head. Her voice was small. "Why me?" Dr. Amos smiled gently. "Because your mom and dad, they were special people. Your father helped build the children's center downtown, and your mother once brought food to my clinic when we were short. They were always kind. They loved you so much, Ella. I want to help take care of you for them." Tears filled Ella's eyes again. She missed her parents so badly. Her heart was heavy with sadness. But there was something kind in the doctor's voice, something warm. And though she didn't know him very well, he felt safe like a calm light in a dark room. "But, will your wife be okay with it?" she asked quietly. Dr. Amos paused, just for a second. "Yes," he said. "She might be surprised at first. But she's a good person, deep down. I'll talk to her. I'll explain." Ella nodded slowly, her fingers tightening around the blanket. She was scared. Everything was new, and nothing felt right. But staying in that lonely hospital room felt even worse. "I don't want to be a burden," she whispered. Dr. Amos shook his head. "You could never be a burden, Ella. You're just a child who needs love and a place to rest. And I think my home can be that place." For the first time in 2 days, Ella let out a soft sigh. It didn't erase her pain, and it didn't bring her parents back, but it gave her a little bit of hope. Maybe, just maybe, there was still some kindness left in the world. He stood up and held out his hand. "Ready to go?" Ella hesitated. Her heart pounded. She looked around the room one last time, the walls, the pillow, the window where the rain still tapped gently. Then she slowly reached for his hand. "Okay," she whispered. Dr. Amos smiled, and together they walked out of the hospital room. The halls were quiet, the lights dim. Ella looked small beside him, like a lost little bird following someone she hoped she could trust. She didn't know what the new house would be like. She didn't know Molly, or Jimmy, or what tomorrow would bring. But right now, all she had was this moment and the soft, warm hand holding hers. And for a little girl whose world had fallen apart, that was enough for now. Dr. Amos drove Ella to his home in a quiet neighborhood. The sky was cloudy, and the wind was cold. Ella sat in the back seat, holding the small bag of clothes a nurse had packed for her. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen from crying. She didn't speak much during the ride. She just stared out the window, thinking about her mom and dad, and the way they smiled when she got into Landmark College. Now, everything felt like a dream that had suddenly turned into a nightmare. The car stopped in front of a big house with a tall black gate. Dr. Amos looked back and gave her a small smile. "You're safe now, Ella," he said gently. "This is your home from now on." Ella nodded, not sure how to feel. The house was beautiful, almost like a castle. But something about it made her heart beat a little faster. The gate opened slowly, and the car rolled in. The front door was already open. A woman stood at the entrance, arms folded. She had sharp eyes, bright red lipstick, and a long green gown that dragged on the floor like a snake. Her face didn't smile. Her eyes didn't blink. Dr. Amos got out of the car and helped Ella with her bag. "Molly," he said, walking toward the woman. "This is Ella. She'll be staying with us for a while." Molly's eyes moved from Dr. Amos to Ella. She didn't say a word. Instead, she stepped aside and opened the door wider, like she was letting in the cold. Ella walked inside slowly. The house smelled of roses and something else she couldn't name, something bitter. The floor was so shiny she could see her reflection. The walls were full of paintings and golden decorations. Everything looked perfect, but it didn't feel warm. It felt like a cage dressed in pretty clothes. Dr. Amos walked ahead and called out, "I'll be in my study." Then he disappeared behind a tall wooden door. Ella turned around, now alone with Molly. The woman stared at her for a long time, then finally spoke. "Come," she said in a voice that was low and cold. "I'll show you your room." Ella followed her through the hallway. Their footsteps echoed like whispers. Molly didn't ask how she was feeling. She didn't even offer her a glass of water. "You'll stay in the back room," Molly said, opening a narrow door near the kitchen. "It used to be a storage room. Don't expect too much." Ella stepped inside. The room was small and dark. There was one window, but it was covered with thick curtains. A thin mattress sat on the floor. No bed frame. No blanket. Just a sheet. A tiny table with a cracked lamp stood in the corner. Ella placed her bag down slowly. Her heart was starting to pound. "Thank you," she whispered, trying to be polite. Molly didn't respond. She just stared at Ella's face like she was looking through her. "I don't like noise," she said. "I don't like lazy people. And I don't like ungrateful mouths. If you're going to live here, you follow my rules. Understand?" Ella nodded quickly. "Yes, ma'am," she replied, her voice barely a breath. Molly's lips curled into a fake smile. "Good. Dinner is at 7. You'll clean the dishes afterward. I hate dirty kitchens." With that, she turned around and walked away. The moment Molly left, Ella sat on the edge of the mattress. Her hands were shaking. Her chest felt tight. This wasn't how a home was supposed to feel. She thought about her mom's warm hugs, her dad's silly jokes, the sound of their laughter. Here, there was only silence and coldness. Ella looked around the room and knew something deep inside her heart, something she didn't want to believe. She wasn't safe. Not at all. The night was quiet. Too quiet. A soft breeze whispered through the tall trees outside the window, and the moonlight slipped gently into the living room. Dr. Amos was sitting on the couch, flipping through Ella's school documents. His eyes were tired, but there was warmth in them, a kindness that hadn't faded, even after all the long hours at the hospital. Molly walked in slowly, her heels clicking against the marble floor. Her face was calm, but her eyes looked like a storm was hiding inside. Amos looked up and smiled. "Molly, look," he said softly, holding up the papers. "Ella got into Landmark College before the accident. I think it's time we help her go back. That child has been through enough." Molly didn't smile back. She crossed her arms and stood in front of him. "You're joking, right?" Amos blinked. "What do you mean? You want to send her to college?" Molly's voice was sharp now. "Do you even hear yourself, Amos? That girl is nothing to us. She's just another mouth to feed. And you want to waste our money on her dreams?" Amos sat up straighter. "Molly, she's not just some girl. Her parents were good people. Peter was my best friend. He saved my life once during an accident on the highway. I promised I'd look after his daughter if anything ever happened. And now, here we are." Molly rolled her eyes and laughed coldly. "Oh, please. You and your promises. That man is gone. His wife is gone. And you've brought their daughter here like she's some lost puppy." "Molly," Amos said gently, "she's grieving. You've been so cold to her." "Why?" "Because I don't want her here." Molly snapped. "I don't trust her. She walks around like a lost spirit, crying in corners, snooping through drawers, asking questions. She's not a child anymore, Amos. She's a grown girl pretty too. What happens when she starts turning heads? What happens when she starts getting in the way?" Amos frowned. "Getting in the way of what, Molly?" Molly didn't answer right away. She walked over to the window and stared out. The night seemed darker now. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I didn't sign up for this. I didn't ask to raise someone else's kid. And I won't let her steal our peace." "She's not stealing anything," Amos replied. "She just needs a home." Molly turned back around, her eyes cold as ice. "Then send her to a hostel. A boarding house. Anywhere but here. You think she's just going to grow up, become a doctor like you, and live happily ever after? Wake up, Amos. Life doesn't work that way." There was a long silence between them. Amos looked down at the documents again. "She's just a child, Molly." Molly leaned in closer, her voice low and dangerous. "She's a problem. And I have a solution." Dr. Amos looked up, concerned. "What are you saying?" Molly smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was the kind that made your stomach twist. "There's a man," she said slowly. "His name is Venom. He works for someone powerful, someone who pays good money for quiet, obedient girls. I've met him before. He owes me a favor." Amos stood up, his face pale. "Molly, no! You can't be serious." "Oh, but I am," she whispered. "You want peace? Let's sell the storm." Dr. Amos stepped back in disbelief. "You're talking about selling a child. That's human trafficking, Molly. That's evil." "I call it survival," she hissed. "You can either get out of my way, or you can watch as this house burns to the ground because I won't let that girl ruin us." Amos stared at his wife, heartbroken and afraid. The woman he thought he knew had become a stranger. And somewhere down the hallway, behind a closed door, Ella slept soundly, completely unaware that her world was about to change forever. The house was calm, and Ella had just finished eating a small plate of rice that Dr. Amos had left for her in the kitchen. He had gone out for a night shift at the hospital, and Molly had said very little all evening. But Ella noticed the way Molly's eyes followed her, cold, sharp, almost like she was waiting for something to go wrong. Ella washed her plate carefully, making sure no water spilled on the counter. Then, quietly, she swept the hallway just as Molly had asked. She didn't want to cause any trouble. She was still new in the house, and part of her still hoped things would get better. But when she entered the guest room, the one she had been given to sleep in, something was wrong. The pillow had been ripped open. Feathers were scattered across the bed, floating softly in the air like snowflakes. And standing at the door, arms folded and face like stone, was Molly. You spoiled little brat, Molly snapped, stepping forward. You think you can destroy things in my house and get away with it? Ella blinked in shock. No, ma'am, I didn't touch the pillow. I just came in now, I swear. But Molly didn't believe her. She stormed into the room, grabbed Ella by the arm, and dragged her to the living room. Ella's feet stumbled over the soft carpet, her heart pounding in her chest. You think I'm stupid, don't you? Molly shouted. You think you can play innocent because you're a poor little orphan? You're not special, girl. You're just a burden. Ella's lips trembled. I didn't do anything, ma'am. Please, I didn't. Molly's hand came down fast, a hard slap across Ella's cheek. The world spun for a second. Ella's small body hit the floor, her palms stinging against the cold tiles. She didn't cry, not because it didn't hurt, but because she didn't want to give Molly the satisfaction. She bit her lip, breathing heavily, too shocked to speak. Molly stood over her. From now on, you clean this house from top to bottom. You don't eat unless I say so. You don't sleep until everything shines. And if I find one more thing out of place, she leaned down close, her voice low and full of poison, I will send you far away, somewhere even worse than here. Ella didn't know what that meant. But it scared her. She nodded slowly, eyes wide, heart aching. Molly turned and left the room, her footsteps echoing into the darkness. That night, Ella sat on the cold floor of the guest room, surrounded by feathers and silence. Her cheek was still red, and her eyes were heavy with tears she wouldn't let fall. Outside the window, the wind howled softly, almost like it was crying with her. She thought about her parents, how her mom used to kiss her forehead and how her dad used to make her laugh during dinner. She missed their warmth, their love, their protection. Now, she was alone in a big house that didn't feel like home. Dr. Amos had seemed kind, and she wanted to believe he still cared. But he wasn't here now. And she didn't know how to tell him what had happened. Would he believe her? Or would he think she was lying too? That night, Ella didn't sleep on the bed. She curled up in the corner, using her school bag as a pillow. The feathers from the pillow drifted around her, like soft ghosts of a comfort she no longer had. Her heart ached, but still, she hoped. She hoped Dr. Amos would see the truth. She hoped this pain would end. And she hoped, more than anything, that one day, anyone would see the little girl inside who just wanted to be loved again. The night was cold and quiet. The wind whispered through the small cracks in the window of the tiny room where Ella slept. But Ella wasn't sleeping. She lay curled up on a thin mat on the floor, her arms wrapped around her knees, staring at the dark ceiling. Her eyes were wide open, and tears slid silently down her cheeks. It had been 3 months since she came to this house. 3 months since Dr. Amos brought her in and told her she'd be safe here. But safety had never come. Instead, what came were harsh words, cold stares, and heavy chores. Molly hated her. She made that clear every single day. She blamed Ella for things she never did. If a cup fell, it was Ella's fault. If the food didn't taste right, Ella was the problem. Molly would slap her, yell at her, sometimes even throw things. And worst of all, Dr. Amos would just stand there silent, helpless. Ella missed her parents. She missed her mother's soft hands and her father's warm hugs. She remembered how they used to sing together on the way to church. How her mother always packed her favorite snacks in her school bag. How her father would lift her high in the air and call her his shining star. But all of that was gone now. Ella wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her worn-out shirt. Her hands were dry and rough from washing clothes and scrubbing floors. Her back ached from carrying water buckets up and down the stairs. She turned her head toward the window. The moon was full, hanging like a silver plate in the sky. The world outside looked quiet, free. I can't stay here, Ella whispered to herself. I can't do this anymore. Her heart beat faster as she sat up. She tiptoed across the room and reached for the little bag she kept under her mat. It wasn't much, just a shirt, a small bottle of water, and the tiny necklace her mother gave her. She didn't know where she would go, but anywhere had to be better than this. She opened the window slowly. It creaked, and she froze. She waited. Silence. No one stirred. She took a deep breath and climbed up on the low stool beside the wall. Just as she was about to step out, she heard a sound. Footsteps. They were slow, heavy, coming from the hallway. Her heart jumped. Her hands trembled. She quickly climbed down and shut the window. She ran back to her mat, lay down, and pulled the thin blanket over her shaking body. The door creaked open. Molly stood in the doorway, her eyes like cold knives in the dark. She didn't say anything. She just looked. Then she shut the door and walked away. Ella couldn't breathe. Her chest felt tight. She knew. Molly knew she had tried to run. And now, it would be worse. Tears came rushing back. Ella buried her face in her pillow and cried silently, biting her lips so no one could hear. I can't do this, she whispered again. But where will I go? Who'll help me? She had no one left. No family. No friend. No one who would believe her. Molly had already told the neighbors that Ella was a troublesome girl. That she was lucky to even have a roof over her head. Even if she ran, how long could she survive? She had no money. No phone. No idea where to go. She was trapped. Trapped in a house that looked nice from the outside, but felt like a prison from the inside. And no one knew. No one saw. Ella closed her eyes and gripped her mother's necklace tightly in her fist. Maybe one day, someone would find her. Maybe one day, someone would listen. But tonight, she stayed. And the moon watched over her, silent and cold.